Cal and Florida State coming up this Saturday. Florida State 0-3. I'm not normally at a loss for words, but I almost am. Florida State 0-3 for, only the second time in a long time. Of course, the first time was under Mike Norvell as well, back in 2021, I believe. Look, a lot of answers. There are a lot of questions that need to be answered in Tallahassee. Let's go to Logan Robinson. He's one of our guys when it comes to Florida State. You can check his terrific workout at Noles Game Day, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Logan, I'm stunned by 0-3, man. I mean, what's your reaction?
I think you, along with the rest of the FSU fan base, even us, boots on the ground in Tallahassee, definitely stunned just off of what the demeanor that we're seeing from the team overall, the intrigue to want to go play on Saturdays. It seems like now it's a chore for this team to go out there and perform, which is something that is dreadful. A complete 180 from what you saw in 2023 and a couple of years past as well. And it's kind of starting to look pretty grim moving forward because your season's already shot, but now what is there to fight for? And now it's if you have any kind of pride or integrity within your locker room, that's what you're trying to find now. And Mike Norvell, I think he read this team pretty badly in a lot of ways going into this season, and he thought he had some leaders. He thought he had some guys with accountability, and point blank, I think that's one of the biggest concerns I had going into this season. Of you lost so much leadership from the last few seasons, and they all are now off to the league. But these guys that you were expecting to show up, play, show accountability, show leadership, aren't doing that for you. Definitely some guys that have been around the program for 4 years as well are not doing that. And it's hurting this team in a lot of different ways. Of course, there's a lot of fundamental play calling, discipline, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, I think it's going down inside that locker room that is a disease at the moment. When you're 0-3 at Florida State, there's a disease that's hitting you, and it's hitting hard right now.
Logan Robinson of Noles Game Day. Logan, last year, Mike Norvell could do no wrong, right? I mean, he's courted by Alabama in the offseason. He gets a big extension to come back to Florida State. Everything's great. And then Georgia Tech happens. And then Boston College happens. And then Memphis happens. And now all of a sudden, people are going, well, Mike Norvell's record when Jordan Travis isn't his quarterback and all this stuff. I mean, is the fan base again starting to turn on Mike Norvell?
Well, you bring up the stats with Jordan Travis, and I mean, man, looking at some of those games the last few years with Jordan Travis, saved that offense in so many different ways. And the way that he was able to evade and get away from defenders when the offensive line was absolutely atrocious at times. And we're seeing consistency there under Alex Atkins and no developmental aspects going into the front line of protecting your quarterback. But, I think there's anger from the fan base, as it should be, because you haven't given another quarterback a chance. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute, but you haven't been able to give someone else a chance behind this offense and maybe try to revitalize and try to find new energy, try to find a reason to go out there and block for somebody, or a wide receiver to make a play, or a running back to make a play. Yes, like I said earlier, there's fundamental things and discipline and technique that need to be better as well, and that all comes down to coaching. But right now, you're just trying to find a way to show life. And I think continuing to trot out a quarterback that we've seen the last 4 or 5 years on the collegiate level not be able to perform above average is rough to see. That Norvell continues to be hard-headed on this realm and continue to go with DJ at the quarterback. When you have a guy like Brock Glenn, who has shown some developmental stuff from you in practices. You saw a little bit of growth there, and you're facing Georgia in an Orange Bowl. I don't grade anything from Brock Glenn last year, but this team, I think, will fight more for Brock Glenn. And you spend time recruiting him. What are you showing to your recruiting class now moving forward? It's NIL contracts. All of these collectives, I think there was bad contracts built out for a lot of these players, including your starting quarterback that you might end up actually seeing face Cal on Saturday for his 4th game in a row, which is, I think, going to be Mike Norvell, along with the rest of the coaching staff and the Florida State football program, will be a laughing stock if that ends up happening Saturday evening.
Wow, it's interesting you say that. And look, I'm not trying to defend DJU. He has not been good, and I agree. Something needs to be done there. Having said that, they can't run the ball at all. I see a lot of drops. They're not doing very well in pass protection. I mean, this is a offensive problem, right? Not just a DJU problem.
Yes, it's DJ won't fix everything, and you're right. He is not the overall biggest problem on this team. And what's crazy to think of, it's up to the coaching right now. And there's so many different things, both defensively, offensively, even in the special teams outside of your kickers, who Ryan Fitzgerald is growing his NFL draft stock. He might be the only NFL player or only FSU player that gets a shot in this upcoming year's draft. Outside of, Mastromano and Ryan Fitzgerald, you've got mistakes being happen on the special team side of the ball, and then offensively, defensively, we see the flaws left and right. And like I was just starting out with, the Alex Atkins and his offensive line, that's been a major disappointment with the amount of leadership, and not really leadership, but the experience that they bring to the table. And then, you look at the wide receiver room, you look at the tight end room, it starts to add up. And then defensively, outside of probably Joshua Farmer, Darrell Jackson hasn't been what everybody thought he would be coming into this season. You knew you were already thin there, the defensive line unit, but so you're expecting a lot from those guys every Saturday. Your edge rush, Marvin Jones Jr. has not been a great addition to this roster. Probably your only good transfer that you brought in outside of Jalen Lucas, who had a season-ending injury, is Sione Lolohea. I think he takes Marvin Jones Jr.'s spot. I think he should. He should take that spot unless there's an NIL contract that's put in place to keep Marvin Jones Jr. out here. But he's the better defensive end out there. I think Florida State did a really bad job in this transfer portal, and they relied so much upon it. And, as we continue to look into this offseason, there's a lot of L's that this staff took, and now they're eating it. But we didn't think they would be of this magnitude. And that's where this program's at right now, going into its fourth game.
Couple of more for Logan Robinson of Nole Game Day. Logan, the defense was awful against the run the first two games. They showed signs of life a little bit against Memphis, but yet late in the game when they needed stops, they could not get them. The third down defense has not been very good. To me, that's also very surprising. Because like you said, Farmer, Jackson, Peyton, you mentioned Marvin Jones. We heard so much about the front four, but, man, that defense has fallen flat.
It has, and, the third down conversions that Florida State has allowed, and we all know, and years past, it's just kind of a regular thing. 3rd and 13s, 3rd and 9s, 3rd and 5s, 3rd and 20s, 3rd and 16s. That's just a continuous thing for Florida State's defense. That's been a disease on that side of the ball as well. But like I was saying earlier, there's been some disappointment there. You're already thin at the linebacker position. You had DJ Lundy, one of your veterans there, toy around with the NIL stuff and give Colorado a shot. Then you have to get back in the NIL game to bring him back to Tallahassee. You were desperate to bring in Cam Riley from Auburn. He's hurt right now. You're really thin there. Probably your most, I would say, exciting player to look forward to and see develop is Blake Nicholson. And Justin Cryer, those guys are now, potentially going to be taking a lot of playing time outside of some veterans like we saw with DJ Lundy. It's just, where do you go from here? And at the end of the day, there's got to be staff changes. We can harp on what the play is on Saturdays and everything. We kind of already got our answer. We know how this team is going to be for the rest of the season. Nothing's going to change it overnight. There's got to be a staff change and linebacker room, defensive line, edge. Outside of Coach Surtan and the defensive back room, I think there's a conversation for a lot of position groups, but there's plenty to talk about on the defensive side of the ball. But there's got to be some kind of attack more than wait for something to happen to you on the defensive side of the ball. And that's been a theme since we were, in Ireland watching Florida State face Georgia Tech. A lot of just let it happen to me, but no, go after it and make a player. Go attack, go after the holes. It's just kind of lackadaisical that, we weren't expecting to see this upcoming season. You were hoping to see this side of the ball carry the team, and that hasn't been the case.
Logan, as we begin to wrap up, man, there are 9 games left, right? We're only a quarter of the season through, and the season seems like it's almost over. I mean, Cal comes in on Saturday. What do you expect? The crowd? I mean, what's kind of the vibe that you're going to get from Florida State Cal on Saturday from the crowd perspective?
Well, the crowd will be happy because the Marching Chiefs are playing on third down, so that makes it a lot more intriguing to be there in the stands. That's number one. But this is going to be another tough game. Looking throughout the rest of the season, Charleston Southern seems like that's a potential win for Florida State. But right now, I predicted Florida State to lose that game to Memphis 30-17. Things got really close to that score prediction, and look at what Cal did and what they did at Jordan Hare against Auburn. That. They're going to bring that same energy. They see blood. They see it heavy on this Florida State football team, and they smell it, and they're going to come in, and they're going to show more energy, more fight, likely. I mean, it's been 3 games. We've seen the same thing for 3 games, so I can just go and tell you they will show more fight than probably what Florida State will bring, unless there's someone inside that locker room, a handful of guys that want to show leadership and bring up accountability with one another, and also the coaches need to make some changes. This all falls on the shoulders of Mike Norvell. And at some point, if you go 0-4, there is most certainly a true conversation to be had about this program moving forward under Mike Norvell, because now it seems like stubbornness to put out players out there, which, if you're not seeing Brock Glenn out there on Saturday and things aren't going well under DJ, then the program has to have a reset, and that's crazy to think of after a Florida State season of 13-0 before going into that bowl game against Georgia. It's a interesting place to be in Tallahassee, and we weren't expecting this, but I think a lot of things just start to add up after a bad offseason. You kept some staff on your team, and there was changes that has had to be made in the last couple of years that haven't. And it's starting to hurt them heavily, and we're seeing that. So we'll see if they can adjust. But there's not a lot of games on this schedule coming up that I have Florida State in favor of winning, I'll be honest with you. And things have to change, and they have to happen right now whenever Florida State hits the practice field later this afternoon.
Logan Robinson of Nole Game Day. Logan, we got about 60 seconds. Leave us with this. I mean, obviously 0-12, but I don't think that's within reason. I think they'll find a way to win a couple of games. But within reason, is there a scenario where you believe Mike Norvell could really be in trouble?
I think if you see, I was already, I keep on stating the quarterback situation just because, like I said earlier, it's not going to be the major fix of this team overall. But I'll be honest with you, Norvell will get booed out of this stadium if he puts out DJ again and it has a bad couple of series. I was in shock that he kept him out there after the interception before halftime. Unless something changes and there's different players out on the field and also better discipline and coaching, there is definitely a conversation to be had because of the stubbornness. You have flashbacks of Jimbo Fisher and what he would do here in Tallahassee that eventually got him in trouble. And, of course, yes, he goes off to Texas A&M and gets that big contract. But we saw the disease starting to grow inside that locker room. That's something that you got. And you saw how it just ripped apart. And also Willie had his ways as well with Willie Taggart. But you're seeing weird signs from Mike Norvell. And I don't know if it has to do with the NIL, like I said, the collectives and bad contracts being made. But, they have a general manager, Derek Ray, and he had a close relationship on getting DJ over to Florida State, and I think there was some bad contracts signed, and maybe it was about playing time and yada. That's what we have to think right now, because that's what Mike Norvell's put himself into, where we're having to imagine some things that we wouldn't think would be right to do is happening, and there's definitely some question marks from Mike Norvell's decisions to begin this season. And like I said, change has to happen. I'm in shock that we didn't see more change in this last game against Memphis. If we don't see if there's no true change and alterations against Cal, it's not looking great for this program, and there's going to have to be some staff firings, and it needs to happen sooner rather than later, in my opinion. I understand you're recruiting, that plays a vital role in everything, but at some point, I mean, you're really, like I said earlier, making yourself look silly with not making some changes that can maybe beneficially help you in the end, at least give you a better look at and not be laughed at across the college football landscape.
Logan Robinson of Nole Game Day. We invite Seminole fans to check out Nole Game Day as we head into Cal coming up this Saturday.
Hey guys, Taylor Dahl here. Thanks so much for checking out 1010XL Seminoles page. If you're looking for more college football content, you can head over to the Gators page, or if you want some professional football content, check out our 1010XL Jaguars page.